Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today in the co-captain's chair, once again, Mr. Chris Alo, and he's got his Epica shirt on. Gotta love it.
I do. Thank God they made one big enough for me.
I don't own one, actually. I don't know why, because I've seen them numerous times. I don't know why I never bought an Epica shirt. Don't know. I think an Epica shirt with Simone on the front would be the way to go, right?
Well, I didn't wear that one because it doesn't say the name of the band. But I have the one where it's just a huge close-up of her face. I don't wear it too often because I would think I would get weird looks, walking around with a big close-up of a beautiful lady's face on my belly. So, but yeah.
But good to have nonetheless, right?
I've got to have it for the collection, no doubt.
So we're going to rank the 7 studio albums from Epica, of course, the great Dutch band who, I mean, geez, how do you, all right, yeah, they're symphonic metal, but I think they're just as much a progressive metal band as they also are an extreme metal band. They do both so well. You got this amazing, beautiful singer. You've got the leader of the band is Mark Jansen, who is the brother of Floor from Nightwish. He also from After Forever. He is the main songwriter. He sings the growling male vocals. He plays guitar, although he didn't play guitar on one album. I don't know what that was all about, but he's back playing mainly rhythm guitar, growling vocals, and songwriter. Great band. I mean, if you think like, and I know we talked about this before, if you think like Nightwish is like the grandest symphonic metal band on the planet, and they're very good, even say great, but man, Epica for me, I prefer because there's just so much more to their music, I think. I don't know.
100%, Pete. You and I tend to be on the same wavelength musically, and 100% could not agree more. I mean, I really like Nightwish, but, Nightwish is not a band that I would probably, wear T-shirts from. And Epica is I have such love for the band that I have probably a dozen T-shirts. They're just an awesome band. When you try and describe it, I try and tell people it's kitchen sink metal. Like they just everything, folk, progressive, the angelic female vocals, the death metal growls, black metal blast beats. It shouldn't work if really big on Middle Eastern influences.
Yep.
But, it should not work. But yet somehow it does, and they pull it off. And man, this run of 7 records is great. I mean, maybe this is blasphemy to some, but I would say this is up there with there's very few bands that could have a run of 7 records that the first 7 Maidens, maybe the first 7 Scorpions, the first 7 AC/DCs. There's not that many. Even I love Sabbath, but record number 6 was a shitter, with Technical Ecstasy. So there's not that many that could just keep knocking it out of the park. And man, these guys really did.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, especially for me, well, I'm not even going to go there. I'm just going to say so many of their albums for me, like at the end of the year, and here we are approaching the end of the year, although not a year with a new Epica release, but so many years since these guys have came out, where their album always seems to sit in my top 5, my top 10 of the year.
Yeah.
It's just like a given. New Epica album, oh yeah, I know where that's going to wind up at the end of the year, right? Just classic stuff.
Yeah.
So
and their new record is due, I think, in February or March or something. It's definitely early first quarter 2021.
Of next year, and it's been a few years. I mean, they haven't released an album, and this is I think for them a pretty longish break, right? Because we usually get stuff a little quicker than we are.
I know they I should have grabbed it. For the last interview I did with Simone, or the previous one rather, they were planning a long break, but then they did some anniversary shows around the world, and then they came to the States for just 3 gigs. I guess that was last January. They came, or that was just January. Yeah, January 2020, I guess.
So before the pandemic, yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed Simone for More Sugar magazine. It was on the cover. I saw them at the I think it was the Irving Plaza and it was some anniversary thing, which was cool that they even came to America because I think they did New York and LA, and I think that was it, maybe. And I want to say they did Canada. But yeah, it has been a long break, and unfortunately, with everything going on, they still have dates, but I'm sure they're not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, hopefully, at least we'll have an album. That's a good.
Yeah, absolutely. Better to have that record done and out, and then knock on wood, when things are better, they can get back to being on, because they are an unbelievable live band. I think I told you on one of the previous videos. I think it was 2005. I was in Belgium, and I was in the photo pit, and I saw them because one of the other photographers, who was Dutch, was like, "Oh, they're like the hometown heroes. You got to see them." And it was the first time I saw them, and I was completely shattered, just blown away by this band with this little girl, and they could do everything. You know, it was just unbelievable. It was heavy, it was light, it was just all over the place. And I was like, wow. I remember going to the heavy metal tent and buying the 3 records, the first 2, and the "We Will Take You With Us" live DVD that they had put out. That was all that at the moment that they had. But man, what a great band, and it's so great to see them doing well in the States and around the world.
Yeah, they draw pretty well here, and like you said, a really great live band. I've seen them a few times, and I'll never forget the one time I saw them. And I think, was it with Simone? She didn't make a tour here.
Yes, she was sick.
She was sick. Yeah, so Amanda Somerville took her place.
Yes.
She was a fine singer too.
Right.
But it wasn't the same.
No, not the same. Yeah, not absolutely. I mean, give them credit for doing it, but yeah, not the same. And thankfully she recovered from whatever ailment she had, because yeah, I remember thinking, oof, like this could be the end of this band if she's not coming back. They're dead in the water.
Yeah, but
yeah,
not the way it turned out, which is good.
No, absolutely, thank God.
So to our ranking, I'm going to have Chris kick us off with his number 7.
Okay, number 7, and I was just telling Pete before we started, I have 2 copies of this album, and unfortunately, in my disorganization, I can't find either. I have the regular version of the Phantom Agony, and I think it's the 10th anniversary re-release, which had a whole bunch of other stuff, and I think it's 2 discs. I don't even remember. I bought it on Epica gig, but it's still a great record. I love the record. Cry for the Moon, I think, is one of the greatest Epica tracks ever. But I put that on the bottom just because on that record, it's their first record, the cheapest production, but also to me, it's got the biggest emphasis. And I know, Pete, you and I have talked about this with Nightwish. It's the biggest emphasis on the operatic vocal. And it does kind of wear on me after a while. And I personally liked how they still do that, but it's not constant. And that's why, I put Phantom Agony on the bottom for me.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement, and I don't have my copy either. Phantom Agony is my number 7 as well. I think it's a fine album, but I think it's almost like they're trying too hard to be the next Nightwish. Right. And not quite have enough of their own identity yet, which they would on subsequent albums. But it's still really good. And they, Mark put this together fairly quickly after he left After Forever. Similar symphonic metal type of thing. You got, here's Simone. This is her first, big album. Sounds great on it. Yeah, maybe a little bit too much on the operatic side. She would show different sides to her vocal attack on subsequent albums, but good album. Maybe not as much a use of the death metal growls from Mark on this album. I think he would use them more going forward. But yeah, you mentioned Cry for the Moon, fantastic song. Facade of Reality, another good one. Sensorium is great. The 3-part title track is, if you like the operatic metal thing, doesn't get much better than that. I think it's a good record. I just think that their best would be yet to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why I'm putting their second album at the next one up, Consigned to Oblivion. I really like this record. I kind of feel bad putting this one at, I still love it. It's got some great stuff on here. Dance of Fate, Mother of Light. I really love the big epic title track. But I thought the best was yet to come. There's some great material on here. But yeah, I kind of feel like they were still finding their themselves. And I think this was a big step in the right direction. Still a really good record, but yeah, not my favorite of the bunch.
Yep. Well, we're so far we're 2 for 2. So Consigned to Oblivion is also my number 6. I think this album is possibly even more symphonic than the debut, but in doing that, I think they sacrificed some of the heaviness, and I think this might be their least heavy album out of all of them, but it's still really good. You got Roy Khan appears on that one song. How do you pronounce this?
Yes.
Troy Vierge, or however, I don't know how you say it, whatever.
Yeah.
Roy Khan, of course, from Conception as well as Camelot at the time. You know, a lot of the albums, again, sounds very Nightwishy in spots, but you got The Last Crusade, Dance of Fate, Solitary Ground is a great vocal from Simone. Absolutely amazing. Mother of Light is really good. You got a lot more growling and screaming from Mark on this album, which I kind of dig. And the artwork is just really, really cool. It's a very classy production, good songs. But again, they would get even better. So this catalog is one of those instances where, and a lot of bands fall into that trap. They blow their wad on the first couple albums, and then everything afterwards is like, yeah, whatever. That is not the case with this band. They just keep getting better and better and better.
Absolutely. Now this one, I put it on this one because some of the tracks I just don't resonate with me as much as the later ones. It's Simone signed this one for me. She signed a bunch of stuff. One of the times I interviewed her, Requiem for the Indifferent. I really like Storm the Sorrow, Monopoly on Truth, but I don't know, some of the other stuff, it just doesn't grab me as much. But still a solid record. But it's not as, I guess, as impactful to me as the top 4. And that was a real tough ranking. Those 4, I was like, oh, I went back and forth a whole bunch of times.
Man, we're on point again. So Requiem for the Indifferent from 2012 is also my number 5. I think this is a long album. You got some long tracks on here. It's all really well done. And I think there's a lot of classical elements on this album, like big time. Monopoly on Truth is really, really good song. Another great vocal performance from Simone on there. With, I love when they do the kind of Beauty and the Beast thing. So you got her soaring vocals and Mark's growls kind of, playing off each other. Just really, really well done. Storm the Sorrow is kind of doomy. Delirium's a pretty nice, lovely kind of track. You got the manic Internal Warfare. The title track is a real headbanger, but I agree with you. I think, and Serenade of Self-Destruction is another good one. I think that there's a lot of material on here. Not all of it works like 100% for me. Half of the album I think is fantastic. The other half is good, solid, but like you mentioned, I think the next 4 are just like so exceptional that it's this one just doesn't quite come up to the level of those, I think.
Yeah. And this is a tough one. I put this at 4, then I put it at 3 originally, then I bumped it down to 4. So I'm like, Then I'm looking at the back, going, yeah, should I? I don't know, but we're going with it because it's on here at 4, and it's Design Your Universe. And I have I was just telling Pete, I have 3 versions. I have the regular CD, which is still sealed, the Digipack. And I guess this is a double. Oh, this is the gold edition, double Digipack from a couple of years ago, which has some like bonus acoustic stuff. But okay, it's number 4 for me. But man, there's just some great stuff. I mean, like two of their best songs, Unleashed and Martyr of the Free World. Tides of Time, which always just a real pulls at your heartstrings. I mean, there's some great stuff on here. Burned to a Cinder. It was real tough ranking these top 4 albums because they're all just so. It's like ranking to me the first 4 Iron Maiden records. I mean, it's like, oof, that's tough, but still a great record.
You sure you didn't sneak into my house and like take a look at my list? Because
Why is that?
it's my number 4 as well. we are identical here.
That is funny.
I don't have 3 copies of this though. I have just the one, and yeah, I mean, this is a really, really strong album. I think the keyboards and orchestrations on this album are amazing, like absolutely amazing. This is just such a pleasing album to listen to from an artful perspective. It's just like off the charts good. Resigned to Surrender, killer song. Unleashed, great. Martyr of the Free World, you mentioned. It's got some great growls from Mr. Jensen on that. Excellent 2-part Kingdom of Heaven. Really, really good track. And I think that's like, what, 13 minutes long. Awesome. And it's kind of like equal parts melodic death metal and power metal. And I think that's one of the things I like about this band so much is they kind of bring the melodic death metal and the power and progressive metal all together. It's not just symphonic metal, right? It's like so much more. And yeah, I mean, and I want to see if I can I want to get a picture of Simone. Wow, this gotta love the picture of her with the wet hair, right? You know.
Oh, for sure.
There's better pictures, but maybe we'll find one before we go off the air here. But, oh well, there she is, right there. I mean,
yeah. I mean, she's a beautiful lady. You know, like I said in one of the previous videos, you know, she could have 3 eyeballs because it's the talent that you know, if she was just a pretty face, you know, we wouldn't be talking like this about this band. Because they really are something very special for sure. But the fact that she's a beautiful lady, listen, that doesn't hurt.
There was a God, I don't remember how many years ago this was. This had to have been 2006 or 7. I don't know. It was a long time ago. They played at Irving Plaza. I believe it was on a Sunday. No, it was a Saturday night. And I remember we ran into each other at the show, and we got done taking our pictures in the photo pit, and it was during their set or whatever, and I saw you in the crowd, and you were just like,
oh yeah,
just like, because she's just mesmerizing, right?
It's mesmerizing. It just can't take your eyes off her. It's just it's something. And you know, I know they love coming to the States, but they don't come, you know, because they're from Europe. They don't, you know, it's a big thing. They come every tour. But, you know, that's why it's one of those things. You got to catch them when you can, because, you know, they're not, you know, it's not Lamb of God that's going to tour America, you know, 4 times in a year.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's tough for them.
Yeah.
All right. Where are we up to? Number 3?
All right. So number 3, I couldn't find mine. I have it somewhere. But the Quantum Enigma, right? Yeah, it's my number 3. I really like the record. It's got one of my all-time favorite Nightwish Epica tracks, Victims of Contingency. Super heavy. You know, love the blast beats on it, but it's not my top 2. But it's still a great record.
It's my number 3 as well.
That's crazy.
This is. I want to tell you something. In the history of this show, this kind of similarity in list has never happened before. Never.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, listen, I hope we have the same 1 and 2 at this point.
We better, because I'll be completely disappointed after all this, right?
Yeah, I was just saying. I'm hoping we get a clean sweep here. That's funny.
That'll be unprecedented. Yeah, I mean, the Quantum Enigma is fantastic, and I don't have I can't find my copy either. I think The Second Stone is a amazing song, and that's just blistering progressive metal with some great guitars and synths. Like, well, I mean, it's just so cool. Simone is like just singing to the heavens, which is amazing. You got Sense Without Sanity is moody, really heavy. Unchained Utopia is just absolutely majestic metal, whatever you want to call it. I think there's probably less growling vocals on this album, a little bit, but you don't even miss it, because I think this is like, Simone is just like all over this album, and she does lots of different styles and textures and things. But I think musically, this probably is close to being one of their most challenging albums from a musical perspective. Just all the stuff that's on here, just really, really well crafted, really, really good album.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Pete, I hope we have the same number 2, because that means we definitely have the same number 1. I pulled this out the other day, and my buddy's like, "Oh, you have that on vinyl?" I'm like, "No, this is just this weird European triple disc version, which is such a pain in the ass because it always falls off the shelf." So my number 2 is the Holographic Principle from Epica. Some great tracks on here. Edge of the Blade, so catchy. Some of the stuff on here is really, just has just real hooks. Universal Death Squad. I mean, Beyond the Matrix. I mean, I could just sing that over and over, and I could see the video when she's swinging her head back and forth. Just a great record. I mean, it's their last record, so I was like, wow. To me, that's really a testament to how good the band is when their newest record is almost my favorite from their whole catalog. But yeah, it's amazing. This is already 4 years ago. I'm like,
4 years,
oh, yeah. When they did do 2 EPs since then, and obviously a bunch of touring. But yeah, great record. I almost put it at 1, but yeah, that's not quite my favorite.
Well, I'm glad you didn't, because it's my number 2 also.
Nice. That's funny. that is hysterical, Pete.
It is, right? Yeah, this is dynamite. This was when this came out, it was like in my top 5, I think, for the year. And I just love it. It's quite good. Pretty close to being my number 1, actually, but my number 1 I have like such a soft spot for, as obviously you do as well. This album is just big and bombastic and just absolutely wonderful. And I mentioned earlier about Mark Jansen not playing any guitar on one of the albums. This is the one. So for whatever reason, he didn't do anything on here, but he did the growling vocals. That's it. They got the other guitar player who does rhythms and leads, but Beyond the Matrix, Edge of the Blade, Divide and Conquer, Universal Death Squad. I mean, the title track, this album just delivers the goods in a big way. It's big, it's bombastic, it's epic, it's symphonic, it's heavy, it's progressive, it's all of that. And of course you got Simone's just absolutely amazing vocals. And you know what, we're going to show you her and the rest of the band once again. I mean, just look at that. Yeah. Just redhead there, right? Amazing stuff. So yeah, so obviously we know what our favorite is here.
Yep.
And it's funny because like when I started doing this, I knew it was either going to be my number 1 or 2, like kind of going in.
Same. Right? I remember, I had already seen them in Europe, and when this, I think the first couple records were on Transmission Records, but I'm not mistaken, I think this was the first one on Nuclear Blast.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
I was so excited because, being over here in the States, the labels would always liked when it was they were coming out something new with a European band, and you had experience with them. I'd already seen them, I'd already shot them live, and man, I mean, I remember when I got the record and I put it on, I was like, holy shit! I mean, it's obviously Pete and I didn't say it, it's the Divine Conspiracy, which is this 2005 or 7 or
7, yeah.
I just remember I really dug the first 2 records, which I had bought over in Europe. But like when I put this on, I was like, whoa! I was like, this is magic. I was like, they have it all. This band is they just vaulted forward into awesomeness.
The difference between this album and the first 2 is like big. Like that divide is like pretty major.
Absolutely, and it's just an unbelievable record. It's my favorite Nightwish record. I keep saying Nightwish. That's because me and you did that list the other day. It's my favorite Epica record. You talked about the cover. I mean, obviously, this is my favorite cover. I have this on vinyl somewhere. I couldn't find. Obviously, I bought the cover. I bought it on vinyl just to have a big blown up version of it. But man, just an unbelievable record. And of all their re-releases and whatever. I hope they do. I hope they re-release this at some point. And I also love that there's the European version where they cover Replica from Fear Factory, which is another one of my favorite bands.
Right.
But yeah, just an unbelievable record. And if you're only getting one Epica record, this is the one. You should probably just go for 2. Buy the new one and the newest one and Divine Conspiracy.
Exactly. And if you like Chris, get multiple copies of each, right?
Yeah, that's true. Just you look, because listen, you lose one, you still got one.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, this is
You
a
the
great.
Mob Rules will have.
Great album. I mean, Chris basically said it all. I mean, so many great songs on here, and this album really is where they just hit a home run with her angelic soaring vocals and Mark's bestial death metal roar. I mean, it's a perfect combination here, and they do it throughout this album. I mean, you probably get more of that Beauty and the Beast thing on this album than any other, but it's just amazing. The Obsessive Devotion, killer song. Chasing the Dragon, Never Enough, quite catchy. You got Death of a Dream, which is kind of like blackened death metal meets complex symphonic progressive metal, right? You got Living a Lie, Fools of Damnation, the 14-minute title track. It's just, I think when this album came out, again, I was listening to a lot of death and black metal. Been listening to progressive metal for many years, big Dream Theater Symphony X fan. But like when this album came out, I was like, I don't even know if I was prepared for this, because we were already listening to Nightwish at the time. But then this hit, and I was like, holy cow, that's got like everything that I love about all these different types of metal all rolled into one.
All rolled into one. I mean, it really is, everything in the kitchen sink. There's something on it for everyone. I know me personally, I always get angered when somebody writes this band off just because there's a girl singer. So it's like, oh, it's wimpy or whatever. And I'm like, have you ever heard this band? Yeah. Like, obviously you haven't, because this band is, and they have that's what's great about them. They have that awesome dynamic. They could do, the lightest, softest song to make you cry, and then the heaviest fucking thing to get you to bang your head and put your fist in the air.
That's right. It's all of that and more, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get there she is. Trying to get another. We can't show enough of Simone here today.
Oh, sure.
And how many like gorgeous redheads are there in metal or in rock music in general, right?
Right. Yeah. No, she's it as far as I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have another shot of her? Because I'm going to show you one in case we don't. There we go.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And I will tell you something. She looks even better in person than she does on the albums.
Absolutely. And I've interviewed her several times. She is a real sweetheart and very, very down to earth, and willing to talk about, just about anything. I know years she had told me, probably like, I want to say more than 10 years ago, that she wanted to do a solo record, and she had a whole bunch of ideas, but 10 years later, it still hasn't happened, which maybe it's a good thing. I mean, she seems like a very smart lady, and obviously now she's a mom, and she's juggling motherhood with being in a rock band, and maybe she's like, hey, you know what? And she's really big into photography and makeup, and she's got her hands in a bunch of other pots besides the band. So maybe she's like, hey, you know what? I got the music thing going good.
And let's be truthful here. It's not like the solo career of Tarja and Liv Christine has really turned out that amazing.
Totally. Right. And I mean, listen, we both love Floor, but that solo record side project that she did like about a year ago, that really didn't really take off too well. I mean, and it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yep. Stay with the cash cow, I guess, or I don't know how much of a cash cow any of these bands are these days, but still, right. You know what we're trying to say here. So yeah. So there you have it, everybody. So a first time ever.
Wow, that's awesome.
Sea of Tranquility ranking the album show have me and my co-host perfectly matched album for album without any discussion beforehand. I had no idea what Chris was picking and vice versa, and we matched absolutely perfectly.
That's crazy, Pete.
I'm going to make a statement right now that will never happen again, probably.
That's crazy. I wish I could say I cheated, and I snuck into Pete's bedroom at night, but I'm too big. I would have knocked stuff over.
You know, I've done a bunch of these shows with Steve Keeler, and whenever we get like two that are the same, he's like, "Oh, we duplicated on two of them. Has that ever happened before?" And I'm like, it happens from time to time, or like once or twice we had the same number one pick or whatever, but not every single one of them. That has never happened before.
Wow, you'll have to tell him about this one. That's for sure.
I certainly will. I'm certain he'll be flabbergasted. So.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh, so there you have it, everybody. So for all you Epica fans, rank these 7 albums as you like them in the comments below. And once again, if you are not familiar with the music of Epica, you should be. All right. If you're a Nightwish fan and you maybe haven't ventured out into a lot of these other female-fronted metal bands, Epica are a totally different beast. They're as good, if not better, in my opinion. And I think you would be it'd be a really good thing for you to go and investigate the music of Epica. So if you haven't heard them and you go check them out, come back, report in the comments what you think. Be very curious and be interesting to read. So Chris and I will be checking out the comments. And if you have any questions for us about Epica, ask them down below and we'll go and answer you. Meanwhile, visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. I want to thank Chris for coming back on the show once again. For all you monster and horror fans, we are already talking about our next Monsters Den episode together. And for all you folks who like great horror and sci-fi films with guys in rubber suits and things like that, that's what's coming up next. So Chris and I will be back with that probably sometime either later this week or next week. And stay tuned for that and more here on the channel. For Chris Alo, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good night, everybody.